I am Tijani Waziri, taking MOD6 of GSP 2205, which is philosophy and logic. The title of MOD6 is Logic as a Principle of Reasoning. This slide we have the introduction to logic. So some see logic. Logic is a subdivision or branch of philosophy, and then logic is the study of the criteria used for the evaluation of argument. So some see logic as an argument, but we are talking of formal argument, not informal argument. And then some are seeing logic as a study of reasoning. So number 4, logic allow one to produce new information from old one. That is why logic pertains many fields of studies such as security, law, politics. Now, as an example of an issue of a law, in the court, both the lawyers and the judges are not present at the crime scene, but based on the information they are getting in the court, they will produce a new information that someone is guilty or not guilty. That statement, guilty or not guilty, is a new information, and they produce the information from the old ones, as in the evidence they have gathered in the court. Next slide. So as the previous slide, that have logic is a study of reasoning. So this shows that there is a relationship between logic and reasoning. So number 1, we have reasoning is the generation or the evaluation of claims in relation to their supporting argument and evidence. So since we have seen that logic and reasoning have some relationship, so number 2, we are going to differentiate between logic and reasoning. So number 2, difference between logic and reasoning. So we have it as a logic is a systematic study of forms of argument, while reason is an application of logic to understand and make judgment. Next slide. We have 3 methods of reasoning. We have the deductive, inductive, and then we have the abductive reasoning. So now in the next slide, we are going to see what is deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning starts with a general statement or hypothesis to examine the possibility to reach a specific logical conclusion. The next point is talking of deductive reasoning works from more general to the more specific. So based on these 2 points, you can say the deductive reasoning starts with a general statement, and then you make a specific statement. That is why we can see now in the example, 2 examples, 1 and 2. Number 1, we have all men are mortal and Joe is a man. Now all men are mortal is a general statement, and then the final, we now conclude, we now use that all men are mortal to make it, and then we have Joe is a man to make a specific conclusion that Joe is mortal. So all men are mortal and Joe is a man is a general statement, and then we conclude that Joe is mortal. The next number 2 is example number 2 is to get a bachelor's degree at Bayero University, Kano. A student must possess or must have 120 credits. Musa has more than 130 credits. Now the statement that to get a bachelor's degree at Bayero University, Kano, a student must have 120 credit units is a general statement to all students. Then Musa has more than 30 credit units after obtaining his degree. This is, we are referring the general to now. We now specify to Musa as a student of BUK. Now this slide we are talking of inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is another method of reasoning, where it says inductive reasoning is a method of reasoning in which a body of observations is synthesized to come up with a general principle. The next point is saying inductive reasoning starts with a specifics and then draw the general conclusion based on the specific facts. Based on these two, the previous slide where we talk of deductive reasoning, and this current slide where we talked of we are talking of inductive reasoning, it's like the reverse of the other. General moves from the deductive reasoning moves from general to specific, while inductive moves from specific to general. That's why in this point you see inductive reasoning start with specifics and then draws the general conclusion based on the specific facts. So we have two examples of inductive reasoning. Number one, in the summer there are ducks in our pond, therefore summer will bring ducks to our pond. So here we talk of and then we have number two. I have seen 4 students at the school leave trash on the floor. The students in this school are disrespectful. Based on these two examples, they take the specific and they now reach to a general conclusion. That's why in this example 2, they take 4 students and then they give an example, they now state what they have done, as in they leave trash on the floor, and they make general conclusion about the whole school. The students in the school are disrespectful. Example number 1, where they say there are ducks in the pond, therefore summer will bring ducks to our pond. So this is another example of inductive reasoning. The next slide is abductive reasoning. We have another method of reasoning which is called abductive reasoning. Here, abductive reasoning is making a probable conclusion from what you know. Example, a medical diagnosis is an application of abductive reasoning. The doctor examining his patient, he will ask some questions and then get response from the patient. He will now make a probable conclusion that this is what is suffering, this is what is we are suffering from social disease. That's why they now at times they subject person to a medical test to really confirm what they are expecting that the student that the patient is suffering from, what they make a conclusion from the questions they ask the patient. Example of another here we have an example that if you see an abandoned bowl of hot soup on the table, you can use an abduction to conclude the owner of the soup is likely returning soon. By just seeing a bowl of hot soup on the table, then you can here the conclusion. Someone can conclude can make an abduction to conclude by saying the owner of the soup likely to return soon, meaning that by saying likely to return, you are not we are not certain that, we are not confirming that the particular person, the particular owner of the soup will come back. But based on what we have seen, we are assuming that he will come back. That is why you see even the doctor, after examining you to confirm, he will now send the patient to a particular medical test. That's why in the definition we said abductive reasoning is making a probable conclusion from what you know. So this is the last slide. So thank you for listening.